They said I was a danger to my own family, but I've never raised a weapon, not even my voice. The knock came at 6:17 a.m., 3 sharp raps, like a judge's gavel, cracking down on the life I thought was mine. Through the peephole, a police badge glinted under the porch light. Still smudged with my lipstick, I'd just kissed my grandson's birthday card. "Ma'am, you've been served. Temporary restraining order under California Family Code, ROS 6320, filed by your daughter, Anna Marie Whitaker." My hands shook harder than the day I signed her birth certificate. The same hands that held her through croup, that braided her hair for prom, that wrote tuition checks with late fees I couldn't afford. Now her signature, rushed and jagged like her old math homework, declared me mentally unfit, a threat to her safety, banned from my own home for 72 hours. The Chanel perfume still clung to the paper, the same scent I gave her last Mother's Day. And as the squad car rolled away, I noticed the red polish chipping on my thumbnail. From fixing her cabinet hinge, yesterday, the coffee inside had gone cold, the birthday balloons kept floating, and I stood alone, realizing this wasn't a mistake. It was a calculated strike. I wasn't the perfect mother, just a consistent one. I packed the same turkey sandwich in her lunchbox every Thursday because it was the only thing she'd eat without complaining. I worked double shifts at the pharmacy when her braces cracked our savings. I stayed up all night editing her college essay because she didn't know where to start. I gave up a lot, but it never felt like sacrifice until now. Anna was my only child, born breech, 3 weeks early. Her heart murmur terrified me into reading every medical journal I could find at 2 a.m. I'd hold her against my chest just to count the rhythm of her breath, over and over, as if love alone could keep it steady. She used to call me her safe place. Now, I wasn't even allowed within 100 feet of her driveway. We weren't perfect, but we weren't broken. At least, I thought we weren't. Just last month, we baked cinnamon rolls together for my grandson's preschool fundraiser. I bought matching aprons. We laughed when hers caught fire on the stove. It never crossed my mind she could look me in the eye, laugh at my jokes, and already be building a legal case against me. So I kept asking myself, when did this start? Was it after I refused to co-sign that second mortgage? After I questioned her new boyfriend's intentions? Or had this been growing for years, quietly, like a crack beneath paint, only now beginning to split? Whatever the answer was, one thing became clear. She didn't just want distance, she wanted control, and I was about to find out just how far she'd go to get it. But even she didn't know. I wasn't done fighting yet. The paperwork didn't arrive in an envelope. It came in a box, heavy, labeled legal service, urgent, dropped on my porch like a package of explosives someone else had already lit. Inside, a conservatorship petition. Anna was seeking full legal control over my finances, medical decisions, and, if granted, my ability to sign anything at all. The claim? I was suffering from progressive mental decline, exhibiting paranoia, and unfit to manage independent living. Attached was a psychiatric evaluation, signed by a doctor I'd never met. The report painted me like a ghost of myself, confused, isolated, volatile. It even referenced a text I sent at 2:14 a.m. I don't trust the people closest to me anymore. That wasn't a diagnosis. It was grief, typed after a night of crying in the kitchen when the coffee had gone cold and the cinnamon rolls from the fundraiser were still sitting on the counter, uneaten. Then came the witness statements. 2 of Anna's friends, people I barely knew, testified that I'd been wandering in my bathrobe, talking to shadows, and forgetting names. One of them hadn't spoken to me in over 3 years. Another once called me Mom in high school. Even the photos were misleading. a pile of old junk from the garage, labeled evidence of hoarding. That wasn't junk. That was Anna's childhood. Her broken ballet shoes, her finger-painted mug from first grade, the torn backpack she refused to throw away. And the worst part? It worked. My bank froze access to my retirement account. My physician called about a wellness advisory from Anna's legal team. Even the pharmacy delayed my refill, requiring new documentation. In the eyes of the system, I wasn't a mother anymore. I was a case file. And yet, some tiny part of me still held on. I found myself rereading a note she wrote in 5th grade, taped to the inside of my kitchen cabinet. I love you, Mommy. You make me brave. I stared at those words for almost an hour because I needed to believe this wasn't her, that someone else was pulling the strings. But the truth, what I uncovered next, wasn't just betrayal. It was premeditated fraud. I stopped answering the phone, even the good numbers. My church group, the neighbor who always brought extra lemons. I couldn't stand the sound of kindness anymore. Every ring felt like another summons, another accusation I hadn't prepared for. I started sleeping on the couch, fully dressed, with the front door locked twice over, as if the truth could be kept out by deadbolts. I used to be strong. I knew where my passport was. I paid bills early. Now I forgot what day it was, unless the pharmacy reminded me. One afternoon, I caught myself standing in the hallway for 5 full minutes, clutching my keys, no idea where I was going. I wasn't unraveling because she was right. I was unraveling because I still loved her. There's a kind of grief no one prepares you for, not the grief of death, the grief of being alive while your child erases you from her version of the story. And in that silence, I started to wonder, what if they were right? What if I was slipping? What if I had missed something obvious, some shift in her voice, some look in her eyes that could have stopped this? I kept replaying one moment in my head, her face at the fundraiser last month. She laughed at my apron catching fire, but something in her eyes didn't laugh. Something in her was already gone. That was the moment I stopped defending myself and started questioning my own memory. But then, something happened. A folder buried in an old email thread, an attachment I almost deleted without opening, and just like that, the story changed. It started with an email I should have deleted, a cluttered thread from 6 months ago, back when Anna was still sending me appointment reminders and Pinterest recipes for crockpot chili. Buried at the bottom was a file attachment, MRI report final draft.docx. Not a scan, not a PDF, a Word document. Out of habit, I clicked Show Edits, and there it was, tracked changes. Anna had opened the neurologist's report and rewritten it. She'd replaced phrases like no signs of cognitive decline with preliminary concern for dementia-like symptoms. She deleted entire lines that referenced my memory being intact. Even the font didn't match the header. I stared at the screen in disbelief, then scrolled up. The metadata was still intact. Edited by Anna M. Whitaker. Last modified, 2:47 a.m., 3 days before she filed for conservatorship. My stomach dropped, but it didn't stop there. I dug through my phone's voice memos, most of them just reminders to buy milk or refill prescriptions. But one was different. It was a recording from the night of the fundraiser. You could hear my voice, a little breathless, laughing as the smoke alarm beeped. Then Anna's voice, clearer than I remembered, whispering, I don't care what she signs. If the lawyer needs another report, I'll write it myself. Pause. She'll never see it coming. She trusts me too much. I sat there with my phone pressed to my chest, shaking. It wasn't just betrayal. It was manipulation by design. This wasn't the system failing me. This was someone who knew how to weaponize it, because I taught her how to write her first cover letter. I proofread her grad school essays. I helped her draft her first resume. And now, she'd turned documentation into a weapon. But here's what she didn't know. I hadn't deleted anything. Not the call logs, not the drafts, not even the sticky note she left on my fridge with the lawyer's number scribbled on the back. And I was done hoping for reconciliation, because now I had proof and I had a plan. I didn't scream. I didn't confront her. I didn't even cry. I did what she never expected. I got organized. I found a lawyer, not a flashy TV ad attorney, but someone quiet, efficient, and terrifying in a deposition room. His office didn't have marble floors. It had file boxes, stacks and stacks of them. And by the time I left, one had my name on it. The first thing we did was create a digital timeline. Every call log, every email, every text message between us from the last 18 months. I gave him the voice recording, the edited MRI file, even the sticky note with the lawyer's number she thought I hadn't seen. He didn't say much, just nodded once and said, "She made it legal. Now we make it formal." Then I went further. I pulled my banking records, showing that I'd been paying my own bills, handling my own transactions without issue. I even found a grocery receipt from the morning of the incident she claimed proved I was disoriented and unable to shop unsupervised. That day, I'd used self-checkout, paid in cash, and used the loyalty card she'd forgotten I still had. Then came the witnesses. I didn't need character statements from old friends. I needed patterns. So I went to the building manager at Anna's condo, asked for camera footage from the garage, and there it was, her car, parked outside the neurologist's office the morning that fake report was supposedly sent directly from the clinic. She had claimed she hadn't gone near it, and yet, there she was. She'd signed in using her maiden name, but she forgot to change her license plate. My lawyer smiled when I brought him that. "She's clever," he said, "but she's not careful." Then we filed. Counterclaim, fraud, defamation, emotional distress, abuse of legal process, all of it, backed by the receipts, literally and legally. And the best part? She didn't see any of it coming. While she was still playing the victim, still smiling for sympathy, I was preparing the strike she'd never recover from, because I didn't need revenge. I needed clarity. I needed the truth documented, and I needed her to understand one thing. She used the court to try and erase me. Now I'd use the court to make sure she could never rewrite me again. The courtroom wasn't what I imagined. No dramatic gavel slam, no whispered gasps, just a clock ticking too loudly and a judge who looked like she'd rather be anywhere else. Anna walked in wearing cream, classic, modest, innocent. Her lawyer called her a devoted daughter, deeply concerned for her mother's well-being. She sat straight, hands folded, eyes wide with concern. Oscar-worthy. And I looked small on purpose. No makeup, gray cardigan. I even let my hands tremble a little when I reached for my water glass, let her think I was still broken. Her team started first, reciting a carefully rehearsed script, my declining mental health, my erratic behavior, my unprovoked aggression. Then came the exhibits. They brought up that same text message. "I don't trust the people closest to me anymore." They printed it in 24-point font, held it up like a smoking gun. My lawyer didn't object. He just waited. When it was our turn, he stood slowly, unfolding one piece of paper at a time, like he was reading bedtime stories, not breaking a narrative apart. First, the MRI report, metadata exposed. Then the garage footage, Anna's license plate, her signature in the neurologist's logbook. Then, the voice memo. We played it aloud. "If the lawyer needs another report, I'll write it myself. She trusts me too much." The courtroom didn't gasp. It exhaled. Even the judge blinked. Anna's lawyer leaned in to whisper something, but she was already pale. Her composure cracked when my lawyer laid down the sticky note. Pink ink. The number of the attorney she'd claimed she'd never contacted, scribbled in her own handwriting. The silence stretched. Finally, the judge cleared her throat and asked Anna directly, "Did you fabricate medical documentation and submit it under sworn affidavit?" She didn't answer. Her mouth opened, then closed. Twice. The judge repeated the question. Her lawyer stood. "Your Honor, we'd like to request a recess." Motion denied. That was the moment Anna realized something. She had used the courtroom to build a performance, but now the spotlight was on her, and there was no script to follow. And me? I didn't smile. I didn't cry. I just folded my hands the way she did when she was little, back when I used to remind her how to tell the truth. The court didn't throw her in jail. There were no handcuffs, no dramatic exits, just silence, a ruling, and consequences that didn't need sirens to feel like justice. The judge dismissed her petition, every word of it, declared the conservatorship fraudulently constructed, ordered her to cover all legal fees, including mine. That part stung more than prison probably would have. But the real fallout didn't happen in the courtroom. It started at the grocery store. One of the clerks, someone who used to greet her by name, looked right past her in the checkout line, didn't even scan her coupons. Then it was her yoga class. Word travels fast when you lie in a community that thrives on organic truth. A neighbor who once asked her to dog sit posted a long, vague quote about the cruelty of betrayal on Facebook. She removed her profile photo the next day. People didn't rage, they withdrew. And somehow, that was worse. The whispers didn't hurt her pride. The silence did. I didn't say a word publicly, didn't post about the verdict, didn't correct the stories she'd planted about me months before. The truth had oxygen now. It didn't need a microphone. And Anna? She sent one email. No subject line. Just, "I'm sorry you felt like I was hurting you." I didn't respond, because apologies written like legal disclaimers aren't meant to heal, and some rifts don't echo. They just stay open, quiet, permanent. But even in the fallout, I didn't feel victorious. I felt still. For the first time in months, the world didn't spin out of my reach. I could hear my own breath again. But peace isn't the same as closure, and justice doesn't always bring restoration, because what comes next isn't punishment, it's the quiet and what you choose to do inside it. I don't walk past mirrors the same way anymore. For months, I couldn't look without wondering if I'd missed something, some crack in myself that only Anna saw. But now I just nod. Not with pride, not with sadness, just awareness. Some stories don't end with forgiveness. They don't end with dramatic reunions or teary embraces in parking lots. Sometimes they end in silence, in space, in knowing that survival isn't always the loudest act of strength. Sometimes it's choosing not to pick up the phone. I still keep her birthday on my calendar, still catch myself saving recipes I think she might like. But I don't send them anymore. That kind of love doesn't die. It just stops asking for permission. I've learned that justice isn't always about punishing the wrong. Sometimes it's about preserving the part of yourself they tried to rewrite. And trust, once broken, it doesn't return in full. It limps, it aches, but it keeps moving. So, no. This story doesn't end in reconciliation. It ends here, with one question I still haven't answered. If the people you love most turn on you, where do you turn next?